Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 62. Hanging out with Robert Drysdale today. As you all know, we have an amazing show. We sit back and we talk about some rises and falls of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where it is today, how it's looked at today, how things might be more separated than it was in the past. We talk about how old school Jiu-Jitsu versus new school Jiu-Jitsu. We even get into some of Robert's background from years ago. So everyone just sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Remember to go out there and support us the best that you can. We appreciate all of you. Thank you guys so much and enjoy. This show is also being brought to you by Thomas Webb of DeHoff Realtors. Buy with Stark County's strongest realtor. Are you in the market to buy a house? It's that time of year, the end of the school year. You're looking to move, you're looking to buy. Well, check out our friend Thomas Webb. You can reach him at 281-889-0140, as well as on Facebook, Instagram. He's out there and available. Stark County's strongest realtor, Thomas Webb, DeHoff Realtors. Be sure to check them out. This show is also being brought to you by Gateway Dental Care, Isaac Couteau DDS out of Worcester, Ohio. Go out there and check them out, especially if you're located locally or in Worcester, Ohio, and you're listening right now. I want you guys to stop. Take note of this place, Gateway Dental Care. They have an amazing dentistry business going on here. Check it out. Anxiety-free dentistry. Who wants to go to the dentist? No one wants to go to the dentist, but we have to go to the dentist. We got to get our teeth clean. We got to get things taken care of. A lot of us have kids. We need to do that kind of stuff. They do everything here, from oral checkups to general checkups to cleanings, oral cancer screenings, help you with teeth grinding, gum disease therapy, ceramic crowns, full mouth reconstruction, mini dental implants, composite fillings, extractions. They have it all. They take care of you, make you feel great, and want you to come back. Again, Gateway Dental Care located in Worcester, Ohio. Check them out. What's up, everybody? I do this every time, don't I, Chad?
Yep.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Hope everyone's doing well. Today, Chad and I are hanging out with the legendary Robert Drysdale. He's a 4th degree black belt and the lead instructor and owner of Zenith Jiu-Jitsu in Las Vegas, Nevada. Robert is also still the only American competitor to have won a world championship in the IBJJF and ADCC. He also competed as a fighter at the highest level in MMA, as well as being a coach for MMA fighters, as well as others on the mat, to be quite frank. Despite this amazing career on the mats and in the cage, he's also a best-selling author who holds a degree in history, and also, maybe the most important thing, he's a father of 2 amazing daughters. So, Robert, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it very much, man. It's an honor for us.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the kind words. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Definitely. I'm going to start asking you one thing. You have a dog, and I want to know what breed of dog that is.
Right. Well, the one you might have seen is a Cane Corso. He ran away last 4th of July. Yeah. So I got a bulldog now. She's farting in the corner over there.
I'm so sorry he ran away.
Yeah, man. Like we never left him alone. I mean, the thing is that he hated fireworks like most dogs do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had a buddy of mine staying over, and I left. I don't remember what I was doing that night, and I thought he was going to stay home. He never said he was going to leave, so he took off as well. He didn't say anything, and then the dog couldn't stay alone with the fireworks. It jumped over the wall.
Oh my!
Beautiful dog. So he's very friendly too. So someone took him.
Oh man, yeah. He was brindle, like a brindle, when they brindle, like a fawndish brindle color. Yeah.
There's a story about that dog. That dog was given to me by my ex-girlfriend, that dog was given to her by her ex-husband, who was like a really rich guy. That dog was a $35,000 dog.
Wow. Wow.
So like when she gave it, I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure.
He was worth that much, man. He was an angel. You know?
Yeah, they're great dogs. So I have one. I have a purebred Cane Corso, and so that's why she's actually laying right here on the floor. Her name's Lucy. She's laying. The kids were like, does Lucy want to stay with you? And they're super loyal. Like, she doesn't leave my side. Like, I'm the alpha, but she knows, like, she's with me all the time. Everywhere I go, like, she's always like, hey, Dad, like, she's right there. But I wanted to ask about the dog. I'm so sorry, man, that has happened, because I mean, dogs are awesome. Let's be honest. You know, they're good things. So how's training going in jiu-jitsu and everything?
For me, not very good.
Uh,
The bill has come. So
okay.
I call the jiu-jitsu life like it's like a credit card. You know, you go spending and then the bill comes later with the interest. I'm like, shit, gotta pay them. I'm looking at surgery at both my wrists. I have arthritis on both my wrists.
Oh man.
I have arthritis on both my knees. I can't do a push-up. I can't do a squat. I need help.
Really? Oh man. Are they going to go in and do like nerve reconstruction in there?
Like I think that's where they're going to just kind of like it's like an incision here.
Yeah.
Clean it up a little bit.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking at now. Both my knees, same thing. I have no meniscus left. I have 2 herniated discs, one on my lower back, one on my neck. I got arthritis on my neck as well. So it's jiu-jitsu is very healthy, guys.
You're very keep going.
Great for your body.
Yeah, but you also are an old school jiu-jitsu guy. Like you've been in it from the beginning. We look at guys now, and we've talked about it on the show, and Chad and I will even talk about it. For instance, I asked Chad today, did you watch some of the one matches with the Bertolo brothers? And I'm like, they're freaks, then they're young, and they're like, and it's different for them versus when you started. Like wasn't gym training harder then than it is now? I'm not saying that it's not hard now, but what I'm saying is like it was maybe more physical.
No, I think guys today probably train like the high level one.
Right.
I think the average time they spend in the gym is higher than what I did. You know, for example.
Okay.
I think that today what's changed, like we're talking about, like they're the 0.1%, right? Like not even the 1%. It's like the elite, and they have the youth on their side, and they have the infrastructure is much better now than it was. We didn't know what we were doing a lot of times. We were just going by. It was hard, you know. There was no methodology. There was no like care. Like there was less instruction. You know, it was more like learning on your own. A lot of it was just like being self-taught. The thing, and this is a personality thing, I think I aged faster than a lot of people because I did not know, to my detriment, I never learned how to train without it being a war. Like every match was the final of the world championships. Like every single round I trained like it was the final of the world, and I absolutely had to win. And looking back, and I'm like, I think that's what accelerated all the damage to my body, because I'm 40. I'm not old. I mean, like I'm not, you know, I'm an old adult, but I'm not like, you know, senile or anything, but I feel like my body's 60. That's what I feel like. Yeah. But I think it was the fact that I never learned how to roll light. And, you know, I think that you don't have to train technically and improve on yourself without making everything a war, you know, and that's what I did.
Which I think a lot of, and Chad, you've talked about this before, even when you started jiu-jitsu, and that was kind of the mentality, right?
Well, I think like he said, is nobody knew really what we were doing, right?
Yeah, right.
And obviously, you know, Robert was at a way higher level than I did, but like you didn't know like what you don't know. We talked about that before, and you hear MMA guys that don't spar hard rounds anymore because of all the, you know, damage it can do to you and all that. I think as much as jiu-jitsu has evolved as an art, it's evolved on how we take care of each other and our bodies too, right? Like my first class, I got heel hooked. Nobody told me, hey, you might want to tap if it hurts, right? Yeah. That's the first thing I do to a brand new white belt. If they roll, like, hey man, if anything hurts, tap them, tap the mat, yell, say something, right? So I think that has come a long way as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that methodology, in terms of care, even like the camaraderie, I think in some ways there's been some, not in a sense where people are more mindful of injuries. I think like that we watch out for our training partners. Like then it was like it was friendly, even in a way like it was even a tighter brotherhood. But like on the mats, like we were trying to kill each other the whole time.
Right?
Like, if no matter what.
Yeah, if someone walked in and saw me and Lucas Leite training in 2005, and they walked in the room and they saw us training, they would think that we were enemies and we hated each other.
Right.
But the second it ended, it was all cool, you know. Like, you know, it was never cool, but it wasn't always healthy. Yeah.
Right. Well, and two, for people that don't know, haven't followed your career, maybe especially the early days, at any given time, how many world champions were in the room with you? I mean, it was 10 plus, maybe. I don't know.
I think 2006 we had our best year. we went to the World Championships, the IBJJF Worlds. We had like 31, 32 competitors. First place with like 32 competitors.
Yeah.
Wow. And so just like the room was like everyone medaled. Like if we took 20 people to the tournament, maybe not 20 gold, but like we expected everyone to place.
They were on the they were on the podium.
Yeah. And to put that in perspective, 32 competitors taking first place, most teams need 100 or more probably to take that to make those kind of points.
Yeah. It was a good moment. In 2007, we went to ADCC. We had 5 athletes in ADCC from Brazil. We brought back 7 trophies with 5 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this might be like the best team performance in the history of ADCC. It's not something we bragged about. To us, it was just like another day in the office, but like, not because it's my team, but I think it's important to remember these things, man, because it's important to record history accurately, man. Like I see the importance of this more than ever because I see what happens when you start recording things inaccurately.
Sure.
That's where a lot of this, my impetus comes into, like, why aren't we recording things as they are versus like, keep hammering a lie down someone's throat, and like, that's not good. Like it's gonna bite you in the ass in the future. It's gonna
catch up to you eventually. It always does.
Always does. That's the kind of like this is why, like, to me, like, it's important, regardless of me being on the team Braz or not, it's important to remember these things, because it was very significant.
Is that what, not in general, but did it drive the passion to be in history, to get a degree in history?
No, actually, interesting. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an academic. Like that, I was one of the few children. I was like, "What do you want to be when you grow up, professor?"
Everyone was like, "What? What did he say?" No, I'm just kidding.
I like archaeology. That was
nice. Okay.
Loved archaeology. I just loved pyramids and ancient civilizations, and I was like super into encyclopedias and books on archaeology when I was a kid. Not like, not normal, nothing unusual, but I actually, my passion for history precedes my passion for jiu-jitsu by a lot. Jiu-jitsu was like something I found when I was 16, and I was just like addicted. I was hooked. Like I can't stop. I mean, just to give you an idea, the gym we trained at only offered jiu-jitsu 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So me and my friends on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, we'd roll on carpet. We go to his house and just roll on his carpet. And Brazilian carpet is not as thick as American carpet. It's very and then we're just rolling on a carpet. You got carpet bruises. It burns all over the place. We just didn't give a shit. It was just like, man, we were like a triangle. Like we get mind blown. Triangle, omoplata. Oh my God, this is so cool. It was like an addiction. Yeah, I couldn't stop.
That's awesome. That's it. And like, I mean, not a lot of people have that opportunity or pursue it. They don't push themselves enough to do that at that time. You know what I mean? Like some guys that were in jiu-jitsu, like they didn't take those steps to do it. And it's like, to read your career, to see your career, like you did that always. You've always been that passionate, like that involved, kind of all in, right?
You know what? It has its like its ups and downs. Like there's a part of me that wonders what life would have been like without jiu-jitsu.
I was going to ask you if you ever thought that.
All the time. Not because I have any regrets, but because you're just curious, man. Life immersed into jiu-jitsu. I don't know who I am. It's my identity. Like who is Robert without jiu-jitsu? I have no idea. So I think these things, but I was very all in. When I started, I had no expectations to be a competitor because I was a mediocre athlete. A lot of people think, oh, he's tall, like he must be a good athlete. Like, no, I'm telling you, I was below average when I was in school. Like I was not a good athlete at anything, but I knew I could be a good teacher. I was like, my mom's a teacher, my dad's a teacher. I know I can explain, I can think things. Like I can be a good coach. But then I started into the competition scene. There was no looking back. In my head, I had made up my mind I was going to be homeless, man. Jiu-jitsu was not popular. Like it was not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I was like making peace with the fact that I was going to live with my parents forever, or like my backup plan. I had 2 backup plans. The first one was to teach English in Brazil. I can be an English teacher in Brazil, which is not a horrible job. Or I can just have an American passport. I was born here, so I can just come to the U.S. and get the shittiest of jobs, working at McDonald's or at Walmart or anything.
Sure.
Or construction. I'd still make more than I would. Those were my 2 plans. But like I was all in jiu-jitsu.
I'm glad you were, because we wouldn't have the history or the people that stuck with it. Like you said, it was harder. I think it was harder to stick with it when Chad started versus where someone like myself, like I have a ton of information, a plethora of information at my fingertips. People like you that have done history on it and given me knowledge or given me the ability to read about knowledge that didn't exist before. You know what I mean?
Not only that, like there was no reward. I mean, in terms of financial terms.
Yeah. Well, you weren't not making a career. Like you said, yeah, you weren't like, oh, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
Look, we knew jiu-jitsu was special. We knew volleyball was special, now MMA, but we knew that we had something. Everyone knew we had something special that eventually we would take over. But the ambition of taking over was never financial. It was always like, oh my God, like this is going to blow up eventually.
Yeah.
We'll do that. But no one was training thinking about money. In a way, it was better because it only drew the people who really loved the art for what it was.
Yeah.
Whereas now it draws a lot of people that, in my opinion, they're really involved in the jiu-jitsu scene more because they like that high school ambience. Like because they like the gossipy who's with who.
Yeah.
And it's more like the drama thing about the popularity and trendy aspect of jiu-jitsu than it is about the art itself. Because now you don't know who loves jiu-jitsu. You have no idea.
Sure, right. It's very clicky like that. Yeah.
So when there was nothing to gain from it, right? Like you only drew the people who absolutely loved jiu-jitsu for what it was.
Which I'm a purist. So that was a big thing for me. Like I never thought, I took martial arts, obviously a lot of us did. And I did some Kung Fu and stuff and Taekwondo when I was younger and off and on some other stuff throughout my life. I never once thought, oh, I'm going to do this like as a career or anything. It was like, I'm just doing it because I love it. And then I fell in love with the art, obviously the martial arts in general. Jiu-jitsu was something I always wanted to try. And my wife gave me the blessing. She was like, go ahead, fine. My kids are like, what are you doing?
This is what I think it's funny when like women say that men are in charge of the world. I'm like, what are you on? No. Like every household I go to, the wife's in charge. I've never seen a household with a man in charge. I'm looking for that household so I can learn some lessons because I'm always like, okay, can I? May I? Where are we going? What are we doing?
Yes.
Yep. Always ask permission.
Yes, always. It's been the way it's been.
Happy life. That's what they say.
Right. Not that there's everyone out there, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. See, anyway, I can talk about this all day. But,
no, that's good. That's good. Very good.
Yeah, man. Look, this is jiu-jitsu's gone a long way, man. It's fun. It's fun to watch the changes because a lot of people when they see jiu-jitsu today, what they see is like, oh, this is how it's always been. This is what jiu-jitsu is. What they fail to see are all the transitions that come behind it, not just in technical terms, because everyone has this like the technique.
Sure. Yep.
There's a cultural aspect to it. There's a value aspect to it. There is a worldview aspect of all this that is people don't realize how much that has changed. And when I started training, I got the a lot of these old timers, they call it the golden age of jiu-jitsu. Like before, everyone believes their age is the golden age, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But like they were describing it, it's like we trained jiu-jitsu because we wanted to go to the beach. And when we surfed, we wanted all the waves. That's why they trained jiu-jitsu.
That's okay.
Surf. And if someone like mess with our way, we're going to fuck you up because we knew how to fight. And then it was a culture. I call it the Gracie Spartan culture. It's like, we're better than you and we can prove it in a fight. And we'll fight you anywhere, anytime. And that's how they handle things. Like it was very it was very, aggressive in a way that today you go to prison.
Sure.
And that was like in some ways there was an attraction about when you're young, you're 16. That's what I can walk into a club in a room and everyone's gonna be scared of me.
Yeah, 100%.
Ever. I'm like, this is incredible. What are these guys doing? I want to learn it. So that was a big part of the motivation. That's all gone. Like there's none of that left in jiu-jitsu. None of it. Old times talk about it, they laugh, but like we train jiu-jitsu to beat people up. Like that's why we trained. I mean, they say defending themselves, right? Because jiu-jitsu guys, it's a euphemism.
Right.
Like, no one's gonna say, no, I train to beat up, for self-defense. It's like you guys were the guys picking fights. Bullies, you are never the anti-bully crowd.
No.
Bullies.
Sure.
And jiu-jitsu guys, the old school are like, they don't like to admit it, but it's true.
It's true.
We were the bullies. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
The bullies that could defend themselves. But you weren't going around just picking on nobodies either. You know what I mean? Like it was and I tell people this because they're like, man, you have an aggressive attitude sometimes and stuff. And I'm like, I'm an older school guy. Like I was hard headed. I grew up rough. I was ready to fight all the time. Like
I miss some of that,
so which jiu-jitsu, it's like now I'm older. So I'm just like, whatever. But if you take 16-year-old, 20-year-old Terry, yeah, so I had a lot of ego, man. I had a lot of frustration in life and a lot of anger.
You know what I miss about that worldview, about that way of thinking, that martial Spartan way, is when we saw that video a few weeks ago of a guy like teasing Mike Tyson in the airplane.
Yeah,
exactly.
And lost his shit, right? I think that a judge, when he sees that, he should give Mike Tyson a Medal of Honor and send that guy to like community work or something. That's how.
Yeah. Like I supported it for sure.
Oh, did Mike Tyson do the right thing? I'm like, what planet are you on? You think you can talk to an animal of the caliber of Mike Tyson like that for minutes on end, and he's not going to beat the shit out of it?
Yeah.
Like I applauded Mike Tyson. In fact, I'm surprised it took him so long to lose his shit.
Yeah.
For being who he is, he's obviously grown up. He's older. He's gone through a ton of stuff. Watching that video, I'm thinking, man, minutes ago, I'd have killed this guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
and held his tone the whole time.
Yeah. And the kid didn't look that bad after. That could have been really bad, right? He had some scratches and a few marks, but man.
Yeah, Mike did really hit him hard.
See, the world we're living in is a world that tolerates that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay.
Not be tolerated because it is not okay to talk to someone. I can't, if I saw a gorilla, you know what I'd do? If I would walk, I'm like, I don't want to pick a fight. Like if I saw someone that could beat me in a fight, you know what I do?
Walk away.
I don't want to pick, I can't. Yeah. But the audacity that people have that they could pick a fight with you precisely because you're stronger than them.
Yeah.
They know that they'll be protected because there's a social contract that protects them. They can say anything they want to your face and you can't do anything in return. I'm like, I think it should be if someone talks to you like that, you should be able to punch them back.
Yeah.
Like, I think to me, that's like you ask for it.
Yeah.
It's not, we've gone too far the other way. Like everything, no, none of that. I'm like, well, it is violence if you're repeatedly insulting me and I can't do anything about it.
That's verbal violence and they're not being held accountable.
Well,
so you go ahead, Chad.
That dude knew what he was doing. It was Mike Tyson. He knows Mike probably could have a short fuse at some point, and he knew what he was doing.
Viral video, and he got it.
Yeah, exactly. He got it.
At the end of the day, that's when I sat and did my own diagnostics and kind of went through my own brain of thinking of this. I go, this kid just wanted his whatever fame it was going to be.
Yeah.
He didn't care if he got hurt, whatever, and maybe some stuff will come down the road of that because we live in the culture that we do now.
You know why he loved it? Because for the rest of his life, when he walks into a bar or a party,
everyone will know.
That's the guy that got punched in the face by Mike Tyson. He's someone now. He was a no one before.
Yep.
He's someone. He's the guy who got punched by Mike Tyson.
And it's hard as an older person, and yourself, Robert, you're 40, Chad's 47. I just turned 45 2 weeks ago. It's hard now in the society and to have kids. Chad has 2 boys. You have 2 girls. I have 2 boys and a girl. It's hard with having kids like that because then you're trying to talk to them, but you want to tell them the right way and not, you know what I mean? So it's like, wow, like we've come a long way, and I don't know that it's always the right way that we've came.
Right.
I tell my daughter in school, they're taught if a kid hits you, you can't hit them back. Right. You go to the teacher.
Yeah. Okay.
I tell my daughters, no, someone hits you, you hit them back immediately.
Yep.
Second they touch you, you fire back. And then my daughters are confused. I'm like, listen to daddy. If something happens, you call daddy and I'll go.
Yeah.
Self-defense is a universal human right. It is
absolutely.
In fact, it is acknowledged by the Geneva Conventions. You guys know that? Someone hits you. It is a human right. Like you can defend yourself if someone attacks you.
Yeah.
It's just in schools we gotten so like, oh, no violence. It's like, oh, it's worse. It's not better. It's not a better system.
Right. Yeah. My kids, we live in a really good school district, let's say. My wife and I were just talking last night. She's like, wow, it seems like there's been a lot of fights over the last several weeks. I'm like, well, they're done with school next Wednesday. I was like, they're done. I said, but don't ever put it past you that this stuff is going away. I was like, it's probably worse now than it was when we were in school. Maybe it depends on where you were in school.
Different.
But it's different now, and the kids ask me, and I'm open and honest with them. I'm very straightforward with my kids, the same way that you're explaining it, Robert. Like I've told my kids, look, if you feel to the point to where you have to defend yourself, if you're hit or touched or anything, then do it. And I will be the person they will have to deal with, like at the school. And I will stand up in front of you and take the blunt. You will not be, I will not allow this to fall on your shoulders. It will fall on my shoulders. Yeah.
That just happened with us. Like, so I have 2 boys that are seniors in high school graduating this year. And then my girlfriend has a 6-year-old daughter that's in kindergarten. So I'm back on the other end of things now, going through it with a girl, right? So a lot different than boys. But some little boy punched her at school, like punched her and I was like, "What'd you do?" She's like, "I punched him back." Perfect. That kid won't mess with you anymore, right?
Yeah. There's no accountability.
There's no accountability. And we, you know,
accountable for anything anymore.
That's nothing. And
you get these guys that are going to keep poking the bear all the time. They don't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we, you know, my girl, her mom and me told her, like, she's like, "What if the teacher gets mad at me?" And like you said, Robert, that we'll deal with that. We will feel that, but, and usually only takes one time. They're not going to mess with you again.
Bullies typically, or people that like to pick fights, they don't really go after the weakest in the they're not going to pick, you know what I'm saying? And they thrive on weakness, right? So the second you hit them back, they're like, "You know what? I'm going to pick on that other kid over there who doesn't fight back."
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did social media change that outlook? Not in life, because I know it did. In general talk, I know it did. In let's say in the martial arts world, in jiu-jitsu, did that start to sway that? For instance, you know, Robert, I know you did obviously the open close guard. Everybody out here that or opening close guard. If you don't have the book and you're not watching this on YouTube, I recommend going and getting it. If you like history and you want to dive into some lineage and some roots. And what I like to say is seeds that were planted and grew into trees out of Brazil for jiu-jitsu. It's a really good book. And
thank you.
Yes, for sure. I was talking to Robert before we started the show. I kind of like history, obviously. And weeks ago, I kind of went down a rabbit hole. So I just sidetracked my conversation here. So Chad is a black belt under James Klingerman, who is a black belt under, help me out, Chad, with the name, because I messed it up last time.
He got his black belt from Mario Roberto, but now he is under Aníbal Braga.
And Aníbal's under Oswaldo Fada, right?
I believe so.
Okay. And then Fada is under Maeda.
So this is the history.
So this is the rabbit hole I went down. This is literally weeks ago before we were even going to talk, and I was already going down this rabbit hole, and I was like, awesome. Robert might be able to shed some light on this, because I can't really find a lot on the internet.
Here's a problem with, and this is where I tell people, like, the internet has been great in some ways. It allows you to communicate with high school friends and grandma.
Sure. Right.
At the same time, like, people kind of confuse what's online with credible knowledge, and anything can go online. Like,
yeah.
And it's not just a Wikipedia that's not reliable. YouTube is not reliable. Most websites and blogs are not reliable. It's like, man, where is reliable information? And there's not a lot out there. And that's what got me on this whole jiu-jitsu history path. Like, I couldn't find anything that was an oral tradition. And in history, everyone knows that oral tradition is problematic, because people lie, they distort, and they forget, and they change allegiances as they get older. So I'm your friend today. I speak highly of you. 20 years later, I speak ill of you over the exact same event, because our relationship changed. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not something reliable. I mean, you should take it into account, but it's not that reliable, right? So with the father lineage, when I started, part of the reasons with motivation was to, like, give Oswaldo Fada credit for being a non-Gracie lineage. Right. And then we start doing some digging. We find that because Oswaldo's father learned from Luis França. Luis França claimed to have learned under Maeda, which is possible.
Oh, okay. So that's where, okay.
So it is possible. The thing is, there's no evidence for it. And you can't write history based on what might have been. History is not ifs. It has to be concrete.
Yeah, it's facts. Right.
Yeah, facts. So the way I describe this, if you were building a house, you couldn't have like a paper brick, because it might hold that house.
Right.
And once it gets like, eventually it's going to, you have to have every brick has got to be solid, right? And there's nothing directly linking Luis França to Maeda, other than Luis França was in the Navy, and there's some evidence that he was stationed in the north of Brazil where Maeda was, but that's not evidence that he trained with him, right? And
right.
The other thing too is, like, people lied a lot in those days, and that's not Luis França, that's not Carlos Grace, that's everyone. It was normal to market yourself by exaggerating your record and claiming your professor was someone that preferably famous who the crowd would recognize, because no one wanted to be under no one. Everyone wanted to be under Maeda because he was famous. But there's no evidence linking Maeda to Carlos either. There's nothing. Like people are like, oh, Carlos Gracie and Maeda, where? Show, and then they get mad. People get angry. But it's there's no evidence. There really isn't. I'm not trying to like be. I would love to see something other than Carlos Gracie's own testimony, which is very suspicious because he has the most to gain from that claim, right? So the evidence we have of Luis França is actually him learning under the Gracie Academy. Everything we find points to Luis França being a student, for at least for a moment, within the Gracie Academy. I wrote an article about this. It's in the book. So like, the Fada lineage is unique in many ways because they opened the doors to a populace in Rio de Janeiro that could not afford jiu-jitsu, where previously the Gracie family was teaching the wealthier classes, and that's how they made their money. Fada was the first one to open it for children, to open it up for, maybe not children, I think the Gracie might have done before, but he had like a large kids project where kids didn't pay for the handicapped and in a poor neighborhood. So he was very unique in those ways, and he was certainly very important, but everything we know points to Fada lineage being a Gracie lineage, Helio Gracie specifically. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And they call him cobbler. Did they call him because of that? They call Fada that, like a cobbler, because he was in the poor area?
He was. I
read that, but I was like, is that true? Is that like
what they used? Suburban. it's like a suburb. Like it was. Brazil is not a racist society, believe it or not. There's not a lot of racism in Brazil, although some people will say that. I never saw it that way. There's a lot of class. You could be black as long as you're rich. You're good. There's
like classification, not racism, but like classification.
A little racist. It's not American. For example, like you can go to a nightclub in the U.S. and you're gonna have poor people and rich people in the same nightclub listening to the exact same music, pretty much dressing the exact same.
Right.
In Brazil, they have two kinds of nightclubs. They have povão and playboy. Povão means big people. That's for the masses, for the poor people.
Okay.
Playboy means for the playboys, for the rich people. And you know what's funny? Like I grew up as a child. I was in Brazil. This was normal to me. I never even crossed my mind how fucked up that was. I had some Swedes come over to train with me. They're super politically correct, right? And they came to Brazil. And I had good students that were both. I had rich students and poor students. And my Swedish students wanted to go out. But they wanted to go out to the Povão nightclb, where they played Brazilian music, right? Not like EDM and techno and that shit. They played Brazilian music. And my rich students wanted to think, no, you don't go there. You're from Sweden. They wanted to think the music they listened to in Sweden. They're like, no, we want to go here. And then they're asking me like, why are your students making such a big deal out of this? And I had to explain it. That's when it dawned on me, like, holy shit, like this is messed up.
Yeah.
But they have nightclubs for poor people and rich. There's a distinction there that is crystal clear for everyone except Brazilians. They don't see it.
Wow. Is it still like that today?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Including the language. They say povão. It means poor. It's just
okay.
You're poor. Yeah.
So they still use that. Okay. Wow. It's different. And I mean, if you grew up around it, you're not going to know. It's like, trying to, we talk about breaking racism and all that stuff here in the United States. And it starts as a change, a cultural change. So if you don't change it as a culture, you're not going to change it.
Like, for example, in the US, you can't try to tell most Americans are like, for example, there's something that is done in Brazil that is better than the American, or in Mexico. Like in Mexico, they do things this way and it's better. Try to tell that to an American. They'll look at you like you're nuts. Impossible.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Impossible. We're better at everything.
Everything.
And it's so ingrained in the culture. Americans can't conceive of someone, like, for example, the electric system in Brazil. It's much better than the American one. I say it all the time. It's an electronic one. There's no room for fraud. And we know who the president is like an hour after the election's over. It's like, boom.
Wow.
And we've never, there's no like fraud disputes in Brazil. Like,
it's just done. Yeah.
Every election we have that issue here, and it's done after like a few hours.
Yeah.
And I tell Americans that, they look at me like, no, it can't be. They're a third world country. How could they do anything? And Americans are very insular like that. They're not really open-minded in that sense, but it's very ingrained in the culture. It's not anyone's fault here. It's just, they are taught that from day one. So Brazilians have these things too. They have these things that, like in Brazil, they'll spend like $300-400 on a pair of Nikes, and they think that's normal. It's like, are you nuts? Like, that's not normal. That's not normal. That's your whole month's salary.
Right.
Brazilians will do it. They're looking at you like it's a Nike. They're Nikes. Like they think that's normal, right? So you get used to all these things and you're immersed in it, and you don't realize how absurd they are until exposed to something else. Yeah.
Is the thought process like that for jiu-jitsu as well? Just out of curiosity, like the difference between, like, does obviously everyone's like, my jiu-jitsu is better than this school or this and so on and so forth. But I just wonder, like, borders. Like I've asked other people, like, hey, people are like, oh, I've been to Iceland or I've been to Ireland and I've taught here. And I always ask that. I'm like, what's it like there versus here in America?
I mean, it's funny. I wrote an article about this recently. It's funny because like when I was writing the book, I developed a reputation in Brazil for being anti-Brazilian, and somehow I developed a reputation in the U.S. for being anti-American. There's no such thing as objectivity in the world, right?
Robert Drysdale, the man of nowhere.
Actually interpret information as it is, free of, but like these jiu-jitsu today, there's this whole thing about American jiu-jitsu, right? And like, it's funny because like, I believe jiu-jitsu is Americanized. It is American in a lot of ways. It's just not in the ways that they're saying it is. Like, we were, innovating the sport. And I'm like, can anyone point a moment in the history of jiu-jitsu where jiu-jitsu was not under a process of innovation? I mean, you can trace it as far back as Japan, if you will. I don't care where you start. Find me a moment in history where it was not under a process of innovation. It's just that a lot of people here are trying to make that an exclusivity of the Americans. Like, oh, but Americans are like good at heel hooks, and Brazilians were not good at butterfly guard and half guard and close guard and lasso guard and the Lahiba guard. You want me to keep going?
Right.
Like, it's just it's an idiotic conversation. The arguments they use to Americanize jiu-jitsu are so mind-boggling. It's like, you guys never gave this any thought, have you? But that's what they believe is American jiu-jitsu. It's like some kind of like better version of what Brazilians did. I'm like, you guys, everyone's just continuing. There's a process we're all involved in, regardless of nationality. That's simple enough, right? I mean, if it's higher in the U.S. and Brazil, it's only because there are more competitors in the U.S. and Brazil. It's nothing to do with where you're born. But
sure. And that's how I've always looked at it. Even, starting was that I would go, I want to know the origins because I want to pay homage to the origins. I want to respect it, what the people have done before me. They've laid the groundwork. I love that part of it, just like I would any other martial art. But I never looked at it like, oh, well, this is theirs, and this is theirs. I always looked at it like when I look at it, it's a puzzle. It's an ever evolving puzzle. So it should be this way from the beginning when someone started it, whoever that man is, that or woman, whatever it is,
No, and it doesn't matter. But I think, honestly, I don't think the people that are making this stand are really serious about it. The internet has become a sensationalist arena.
Yeah.
So if you say things that are crazy, and it doesn't matter if they're reasonable or not, if it can be fact checked, I think these things don't matter. As long as you say something that draws attention to your page, you're going to get more likes. You're going to get people arguing. If people are arguing, algorithm through the roof. So it's a very deceiving environment. A snowball effect of stupidity. That's what I call it. It's like the dumber you are, the more people reply to you, the more it comes up on other people's feeds, the more comments you get, the further it's like a snowball effect of and American Jiu-Jitsu like kind of falls in that category. The definition they have. The way America Jiu-Jitsu is Americanized is in terms of its culture. And they're responsible for it, incidentally. Because the wave of Brazilians that came here, the first wave, right? The one that you can say I'm the second wave maybe, but like the people that came here to teach and make a living from Jiu-Jitsu from Brazil, the second they get off that plane, they can say whatever they want, right? And I'm part of the problem. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm as much part of the problem as anyone. We were thinking about I wanted to fight. That was a real reason, right? But we all had our eyes on the dollars, right? Brazilians look at the U.S. as a way of like, oh, it's easier to make money there, which is true. Like, it's much easier to make money in the U.S. than anywhere else in the world, in fact.
Sure, right.
And in some ways, it became commercialized in a way. Brazilians conceded to everything that jiu-jitsu used to be, what it was in Brazil. The second they got off that plane, they conceded to the American way very quickly. So the culture has become American. It is no longer, and if you look at it, if Brazilians like indulge in it, because, for example, when I was coming up, if you try to befriend a reporter just to get your face on a newspaper or in Gracie magazine, if you try to promote yourself in any way after winning a tournament, people would shit on you. They would like, bro, what are you doing? Like Carlson.
Okay.
It was frowned upon. To market yourself and promote yourself was frowned upon to the point where you might get your ass kicked in the gym. They might kick you. Like, people hated that. It was not okay. In America, that's completely okay. That's the norm. If you win a title, make sure you make some money from that, right?
Sure.
The second that happened here, like Brazilians were like, what? I can make, they were all in on it. And now in Brazil, because Brazilians tend to copy Americans, right? So so whatever Americans do here that works, Brazilians are just like 10 years behind. So if you now look at the young generation of Brazilians, they no longer follow that tradition of Brazilians that I started from, which was that Spartan culture I was describing.
Sure.
Now,
yeah.
You win a tournament, man, market.
Boom. Yeah.
And it's an American trait. That's not Brazilian. So if you look at how the gyms are run and how the teams are run and how, like, I'll give you an example. It's very Americanized. Like even like team leaders, I'm not going to mention names, but people that are well known in the community, they straight out recruit members from my gym to go train under them. They are offering them money. This has happened on more than one occasion where they're buying in competitors.
Because okay.
If you did this in Brazil, like even when I started training, like, I'm going to dojo storm your gym. I'd walk up to that guy and I'm like, motherfucker, let's go at it. Like that's how you solved it. Like, you're going to poach my students.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the whereas like a lot of these, they're Brazilian, they're not American. Like they're doing this. You go onto your gym and try to recruit students, offering them money. Those are the changes, the commercialization of jiu-jitsu, what I call it, that I think have changed jiu-jitsu in a negative way, because a lot of these things were not acceptable before, and they're completely normal now. Like they're straight up like buying students, mercenaries, and you turn the sport into a big prostitution ring, because if you're selling your soul to the devil, there's no such thing as like loyalty. Everything's about the money, and money is all that matters. Like, no, what are we then? Are we prostitutes now?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would like mentally, as you're saying it, Robert. That's what I start thinking, like instantly, like, oh wow, I've heard of it happening, but not in depth of like, maybe. I mean, I'm a white belt. What do I know? I'm a 45-year-old guy. But when I start diving and reading into this stuff or listening to people, or obviously on social media, I started wondering, I'm like, wow, like people are buying athletes to come so they could be under their name, because everyone's chasing they're chasing. It's like I'm living my dreams through a competitor, almost. Like that's kind of how I look at it as a coach. I've coached a lot of sports in my lifetime, played basically everything. And I look at my kids now that play, and I see, I don't coach anymore because of my kids. And I see other coaches going, they're on their kids, or they have to do this all the time. And I'm like, wow, they're trying to live those dreams. So it sounds to me more like professors, coaches, whatever have you, whatever name everyone wants to go by, are doing that more than I thought maybe in America.
No, absolutely, man. You're absolutely correct. Like, and like, don't get me wrong, man. Like I love the fact that I can make a living. I make a comfortable living from jiu-jitsu. I don't have to hustle for students.
Sure, right.
Like, it's crazy. Like the craze for jiu-jitsu is so widespread that I just have my website online and people sign up with me doing no effort whatsoever. That was unthinkable before. Like, no one can make a living from jiu-jitsu 20 years ago. Not a decent living, at least.
You're right. Yeah.
So that's been great. And that's because Americans bought into it. And Corian was right. Like, this was only going to work if it started in Southern California, because he understood that the world would copy Southern. That's the Rome. That is modern Rome. That's where trends begin. And he got that. Like, that's where Hollywood is. That's where all the cool people
That's where all the stuff. Yeah.
And so, and that was he hit the nail on the head there. But on the other hand, like, we lost some important things along the way. Like, there's no more respect. There really, like, there's an idea of, there's a loss of, for example, I'm not going to mention names, but they're like some very successful competitors in the jiu-jitsu community that they shit on older people, left, right, and center. The people who laid the groundwork, that they laid down the bricks on the foundation on which they stand and make a living from, and they shit on them from above. And to me, that's like, we are going nowhere with this. This is the beginning of the end, right? This is where the decay begins. It's like, there's no more order to anything. There's no more respect. There's no more cohesion. It's every man for himself. People don't even agree on what jiu-jitsu is anymore. If you ask me, what is jiu-jitsu? Try to get people to give you the same answer. See if you ask 10 of your students, chat tonight. Yeah. What is it? See if you don't get 10 different answers.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You don't even know what it is. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's not even clear to us what we're doing. So to me, that lack of unity, something that judo has to an extreme. This is why they've been around for 140 years. They know exactly who they are. There's a purpose. There's a direction.
Oh, so I didn't know. Okay. So that hasn't changed in judo. So that's stayed that way. It's been, they're loyal to the predecessors who have laid that groundwork.
there's a framework, there's an architecture that was built by Jigoro Kano, and possibly a reflection of Japanese culture too, more than his mind. Like Japanese are very structured like that, and they created a structure before the growth of the sport. We can't say the same. Jiu-Jitsu grew before it had any structure. It was first a boom, and then IBJJF came after the boom, trying to pick the pieces together and give it. And they do really. Granted, I disagree with a lot of things about the rules and how they do things. Like for the most part, they've done a phenomenal job at organizing the sport. They give it credibility because we didn't have that. Now we do. And that's not because of we got more eyes on the sport now because of mass media and that was IBJJF. That was IBJJF number 1, Joe Rogan number 2. Those are the two biggest columns of jiu-jitsu today. And its credibility is IBJJF gives its credibility, and Joe Rogan doesn't shut up about it. Thank God, right? Because I sign up a student every week because of Joe Rogan. So thank you, Joe. But in terms of cohesion, there is none. It's a fad, and that's what worries me. Like jiu-jitsu, if it continues on this path of being a fad, it's going to die because there's no direction. What are we doing? Where are we going? Everyone's going their own way. It's too individualistic, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not the family aspect, or maybe because. Was that always there? So I say this a lot, but being an older person, like I found at our gym, because our gym's awesome. I obviously tote our gym all the time, but it's my home. And I'm very loyal to the gym there, but I found family members that I never thought I would have in my life, of all walks of life, from everything, you know what I mean? And people that accepted me for who I am and just, they cared about me. I felt that right away. It was like, wow, I just was going to come here, work out and leave, come and do jiu-jitsu and leave. I never knew this was going to happen. And it happened. Are you saying, Robert, you think like that's going away? That part of it.
That aspect is the only glue keeping jiu-jitsu.
They're keeping it together. Okay.
Yeah, like it's the fact that I love these people, camaraderie. The unity I'm speaking of is, for example, when Jigoro Kano created judo, he had a vision for education. That was judo as a means to improving on the human being, and they have a saying that goes "jita koye," which means like mutual, growing mutually. I think is how it translates. Like it's mutual benefit. Okay. And there's a certain view of where this is the purpose of judo in the world. Jiu-jitsu doesn't really. It's like the purpose of jiu-jitsu is like I'm having fun.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Like what are in terms of rule sets? Like we don't agree on anything. No one fucking agrees. Self-defense. The Gracie family itself started as a split about that one. They don't agree on what they're doing. Half of them wanted to do sport, the other half wanted self-defense, and then their own version of self-defense is not identical. Like more more theoretical. Others are more MMA oriented. Like there's a lot of division in jiu-jitsu in that regard. Something didn't exist in judo. And this is why judo was 140 years old. And there was a fad of judo for a moment, but judo survived the fashion moment. Like it stays in the world because there's a cohesion. They identify as judokas under the same unit. In jiu-jitsu, we don't have that. Like I have my friends in the gym, but how your teacher views and teaches jiu-jitsu is not exactly the same as how the guy across the street does it. And that's the lack of unity I'm talking about.
I see. Okay.
No overall vision. I was like, when you start a business, any business consultant is going to tell you, like, what is your why?
Yep.
You understand? The first thing I'm going to ask you, what's your why? Like, how are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think jiu-jitsu kind of doesn't. Our why is like, oh, I'm going to see my friends in the gym, and you can see your friends in a NASCAR game too. Like you can see your friends playing basketball. Like there's a number of your family. Jiu-jitsu is not exclusive. There's nothing special about jiu-jitsu. If it's the way to bring people together, it's just something else. Like that's where I think we don't have, at least like back in Brazil. Like we're gonna kick the world's ass. You can call it, that's not okay, but they agreed on it. That's what we're training. That's what we are training to beat butt. Like that's what we're here for. To learn. Like we don't have that. Like, we're here to win medals. We're here to self-defense. Are we here to gi, no gi? What rules said about seeing my friends? It's about making money. What is it? Yeah. There's a lot of division in the sport.
I see. So there's a lot of branches from one tree that it branched out completely, and it's huge now, and it's all over. There are different avenues on those paths. I see.
It's way because everything that peaks, what follows a peak? It's
a valley. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a valley for sure. I mean, every peak has it.
I have my doubts. That's what my next book is about. Like I'm asking these questions because I think that we're lacking some direction in terms of, like, for example, we completely neglected efficiency over entertainment, which is a bad sign, right? That's what catch wrestling did it first. There's nothing we're doing, and judo for that matter, that catch wrestlers didn't do it way before us. Yeah. Catch wrestlers did it before everyone else, before Japanese, before Brazilians, but they needed to make money. So what do? They go to pro wrestling. They analyze, right? Because entertainment, make money, entertainment, money. And as a result, they kind of became banalized, even though they were technically ahead of everyone else.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. I think we're kind of going that way where we're going entertainment, money. We're looking at these things as metrics for growth. And I'm going, well, what are we going then? Like, if that's all about entertainment, not about efficiency, as a martial art should be, right? That's what brought jiu-jitsu to the forefront.
To the forefront, right.
It was Hoist Gracie whooping ass in the UFC. Everyone's like, holy shit, what is that?
Yeah.
Right? Right? Man, this stuff works, right? And we've kind of neglected that too, because we're going, this Berimbolo choke with the lapel, with the 50-50, with the fucking whatever name, like every week. It's like, there's a K guard, there's an M guard, there's an L guard.
That's been the hardest thing for me is a young white belt.
Tell me an amount of information. And I'm going, how would that work? How does that translate into combat? That's my question.
Yeah.
And one common thread that unites all martial arts throughout history is the things that stay long-term are the things that work in a fight. That is the foundation of martial arts, right? The more you drift towards the margins and away from the center, the less real it becomes, and the less it loses credibility over.
Well, you lose your credibility. You lose the heart of what it is. You lose the heart of it. And that's not, you don't want that in anything, especially martial arts, because the heart of, and that's what's driven every martial art that's ever been in existence and still in existence today. But I know what you're saying, Robert, like we're getting to that point to where that's no longer part of it. No one's going back to that, the heart of it, except someone like yourself that's diving into the history and giving us the interviews and feedback and writing of that.
And where this inspiration comes from is from reading history, because it's happened before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's happened in so many times. Yeah,
we're just rewatching. So judo maintained itself as a unit because they had a common purpose in terms of values, right? Of view, a world view that they agreed on. But in technical terms, they went entertainment for the Olympics. They got to sell tickets. Mm-hmm. They lost the martial side. Gracie's come along and go, what? We're going to pick up from where you guys left off. We're going to insert the martial element into it. We're going to borrow from catch wrestling, borrow from capoeira, borrow from boxing, assimilate whatever judo we know. I'm going to put it together. I'm going to call it Gracie fighting, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. They didn't call it that then, but they had a system. And that right there went on to conquer the Vale Tudo world. And then Hoist was that big moment, right? And then it becomes super popular. Now there's demand to sell it because it's too popular. So now money comes in. Money comes in and corrupts everything. So we have to water down the product. You have to dilute it. So as a result, what happens? We become what we used to criticize. We became the taekwondos. We're becoming the taekwondo of the 80s that jiu-jitsu shit on, right? We're becoming that. So as a result, like, I think history does repeat itself, and a lot of lessons we can learn from all this, and on what not to do, right? What we should do is more complicated, but what we should not do, to me, is very clear.
Sure.
We should not banalize jiu-jitsu in the name of entertainment. Like, I think that's the biggest issue. And then everyone's like, oh, but it's selling tickets. That's all that matters. I'm like, NASCAR sells tickets too, and so does pro wrestling. Fans switch just like that, man. You don't want those guys because they're fickle. There's money to be made there, but long term, this is not a foundation.
And people are by nature fickle, 100%.
Oh yeah,
100%. Like, in today, out tomorrow. That's probably and I could be completely wrong on this, but in jiu-jitsu, you have such a beginning turnover. Like, white belts come in, they stay for so long, and then they're out. And you know what I mean? Like, that percentage is very low that people progress because people are fickle and they don't want to do it anymore. And it's hard. Let's be honest. I mean, I've said it before in the show. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life if you're at a good gym and you're being taught by good people around you and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Art should be able to stand on its own legs without fads, without Joe Rogan, without the UFC.
Right.
Should be able, and wrestling has done that. How long has wrestling survived without Joe Rogan in the UFC?
Yeah. I mean, it's been around forever. I mean, it's been an Olympic sport at the top of the echelon, Olympic sport for, I've never read the history of it. Actually, now that you bring it up, it'd be kind of interesting to dive into to see like when that all started. I mean, I know it's Roman times, like Roman wrestling and stuff before it went to like freestyle.
It's one of the first Olympic sports.
Yeah.
Ever, right.
Yeah. So, but but wrestling is so objective and efficient in technical terms. They never like, they prohibited too many things, in my opinion. Had they kept submissions in, it probably would have been better for them. But
Yeah,
remain very objective in terms of like wrestlers don't care about fancy. Wrestlers care about does it work. Jiu-jitsu guys care about fancy more than they care about if it works or not.
Yeah.
You know, wrestlers don't give a shit if it's something like, can you get them down or no? That's the important question I want to ask. That's why they're so efficient in MMA, because they're down to what works, and that's all they give a shit about.
Yeah.
What about this boogie choke? Can I do it? I'm
it's not funny, but wow, it's funny.
You know, I weigh 300 pounds, but I want to do the boogie choke and the rubber guard. I'm like, bro, you can't. You know, keep it simple, dude. Like,
right.
You know,
keep it simple, stupid. It's not. Don't take that personally. Anybody out there?
Simple goes on forever, man. Simple
it does.
Doesn't break. It doesn't. It's simple. Right hand, left hook, rear naked choke, Kimura, and it's not old school. You can evolve a Kimura. We've seen evolution of Kimura in recent years.
Right.
You can evolve the back take. You can evolve these things. Simple can be evolved. It's just that you have to evolve towards the purpose of reality of combat, not evolve towards fashion. What's cool.
Right.
Because that's not
what's cool. What's the cool thing now? Right. Exactly. Like what's the hot topic? This is going to be just a question because I don't know. So I'm going to ask you, did you like your mindset within all the matches that you ever, where you're like, I'm sticking like to my moves, my basics. Like I know this is efficient and it works and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I tried, man. When I started training jiu-jitsu, like jiu-jitsu was a means to learn how to fight. It was nothing to do with sport and medals.
Sure, right.
But like you wanted to learn how to fight. I wanted to be like Carlson Gracie students. I would watch like Murilo Bustamante and those guys. And I want to be like those guys. That's what I want to do. So my jiu-jitsu had MMA in mind, Vale Tudo in mind. That's how I thought of it. So yeah, I became a decent guard player. I had played a lot of lasso guard. I did somewhat of like a crude version of the Berimbolo back in the day when I was a purple belt, you know, like, but I always had my eyes. I knew that wouldn't work in a fight. I think that was important. And the more aware of this became, like, the more I try to shape my jiu-jitsu towards something that's going to work everywhere. And that's what I teach. And it's hard because you meet a lot of resistance because people want to learn the trendy stuff, you know? And and it's like, how much do we want to drift from what's practical and objective to be fashionable? That's the question. I try to be in the center. I try to teach it as realistically as possible, but you run a business too. So you have to balance that out with.
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
It's a very shitty line to try. I hate it, but I got bills to pay.
Right.
You know?
It's your livelihood, you know, like don't never sell yourself short on that part because you are who you are. And that makes you a great coach and a great person. You know what I mean? Like, so it sucks, but we walk these lines sometimes because we have to walk these lines, but you also keep your real perspective inside you. Like, you know where you come from, you know what you represent, whether I don't care what anybody else thinks or says, you are true to yourself and true to what you're doing and you're true to the art, whether it's teaching a fancier move or not teaching a fancier move, you know, like you look at me and go, yeah, Terry, we're not going to do that move. You're never doing that move.
Well, I've had that a little bit at the gym with, going through what I'm teaching when I'm teaching it. I don't have a curriculum on paper or anything like that, but I kind of have this thing in my head and certain things we cover more than others. Right. So I'm a big proponent of, getting in the pocket, X pass, leg weave, leg dreave, that kind of stand up passing. Right. And some people are like, man, we just did this whole X pass thing not long ago. Why are we doing it again? Because it works. Like you have to be on your feet to pass, get off your knees, stand up, so that kind of thing. But like you said, with everybody seeing the new stuff too, you got to kind of supplement some of that in to kind of keep some people happy. And,
it sounds like the thing is like I just finished reading, I writing an article about this. It'll be on GTR soon. So I actually been writing for GTR every week. So if you guys haven't checked it out.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm talking a lot about these things. And one of them is like this idea of old and new. And we got to stop this because that's not a good metric. A good metric is not how old it is. Rear naked choke is so is the Kimura, so is the heel hook. Just because something is old doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Right.
The question is, does it work or not? That's the only important metric, right? That's what we got to be looking at. How efficient is it? Not if it's cool, not if it's old, not if it's new, not if it's uncool. It's just like, does it work? That's the question we got to be asking every day. And there's a lot of stuff when it comes to competitive jiu-jitsu that is completely inefficient for a fight, but yet it works in competition. Say a 360 wrap of the lapel on your opponent's leg when you're in 50-50. Oh, you can't move. You're screwed. Right? I've been there. Blue belts hold me there for a whole round. I can't move.
Yeah.
Maybe twice their size and I can't move. They're blue belts. Right? Clearly. Right? This is where like the federation bears some responsibility, because if you're allowing that, you're allowing that to become normal, right? And and this is where like it comes to it's the responsibility of the leadership and just to steer the sport left or right. Like if this is the job of like, where are we guiding the evolution of jiu-jitsu? And the evolution of jiu-jitsu right now does not have good guidance. It is guided towards a rule set that has become inadequate in a lot of ways. And it's still, there's a lot of things good about it. There's some things are not. Some things should be questioned, and they're not being because they're really old and, they've been there forever, so they must be good.
This is going back to IBJJF and that new rule that they changed where there's no, I'm going to screw this up. No, what is it? Walkover or walk off or what's it called?
Oh, closeouts.
No closeouts. What's your opinion on that? I mean, I ask this to a lot of guys just because those of you who have been around for a very long time. Like, is it good for the sport? Is it not good for sport to make them compete? Make two top. You have two guys at Zenith. They're both going for a gold medal. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I used to be against it. I think that it's a smaller price to pay if you have them. Because the closeouts, first of all, I mean, for the fans, it's kind of disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
It can't create if you're a member of the same team, let's say Zenith and Zenith, but they don't train together, always fight. If they train together, a lot of times it can poison the environment, right?
Yeah.
I used to say that. That's why I didn't like my students if they trained together to fight, because I didn't want to ruin the dynamics in the gym. I didn't want to carry over that rivalry to the mats. But again, like on second thought, I'm going, if that happens, it's because the dynamics in the gym are not good to begin with. Because if you have good dynamics in the gym, right, and you have good culture, truly good culture, I can go to war with you every day in the gym, and then you can beat my ass on the mats in the competition.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't change how we feel about each other on the mats the next day. That's good culture. Hard to create. It is much harder to create that sort of culture than it is to say don't fight, which is the easy way out, right?
Yeah.
So I've changed like that. You know what? I think people should compete against each other every other week. When there's no competition to go to, you should throw in-house tournaments and make your students compete like against each other like every other weekend. Like that's smart to me. Oh, they're gonna hate it, they're gonna fight, but like, you know what, man, you're gonna be a better competitor at the end.
Sure. And we've done that. We've done that for a while at the gym. Like we'll do fight in the night, like or whatever. And there's two guys. Chad will pick out two guys and like, hey, you're getting after it. And it's. You got 5 minutes, whatever. If they submit them, it's usually submit only. We don't do points or anything like that. But I've always found it good for us in the gym. Like it's built stronger relationships that we've cheered on each other. But at the same time, it's like, man, you got me good. Like you came at me.
It takes maturity though. It takes maturity. Like
it does for sure.
And then like how responsible can a gym culture or a coach be for someone's maturity? You get students that just don't have them, and they're like 40 years old and they're still behaving like children. I'm like, dude,
right. Yeah.
This was your parents should have taught you this. But it's we do our best, man. But like a lot of times, like coaches, we're underpaid, man. Come on, let's be frank.
Wait, yes.
We're like therapists, we're like coaches. We gotta like manage. We gotta do PR for our students, human rights, human resources, right? Like we gotta
right.
You're a jack of all trades within the gym. You really are. I mean, if you think about it.
I got like 10 different hats on.
Yeah. On the regular too, because people reach out to you. Like your students are going to reach out to you at all times, at anything of all different situations. And you don't want to fail them. So you feel an obligation to them because they are your student. Like I know Chad feels this way, and I'm sure Robert, you feel this way, right? You wouldn't have brought it up.
Like your children, you became, and that's just what's something that no student ever gets. You'll only get it when you become a coach. A coach gives a lot more than he gets. There's a lot more give getting.
Sure.
In financial terms, it's not the bonanza everyone thinks it is. Everyone knows that, unless you're owning like 3, 4, 5 different schools that are very well managed. It's that just for the most part, there's not that much money in it. But you give your weekends away, man. You give time off the mats. Dude, I reply. If I check my phone now, there's gonna be 20 messages for me to reply to.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
always
like
busy, always on top of something.
You're on vacation, your students are calling you and shit.
Yeah.
Like, Rob, I have like parents that like will send their 6-year-old sons like matches on Naga. And like, hey coach, what did my son do wrong here? And I want to say everything. Like,
He's 6.
Everything is wrong. Like, you give it time, man. Chill. And they'll send me like an 8-minute, long video or something. I gotta like sit down. Dude, I don't get paid to do this. Like, this is insane, but it's very demanding.
It is very demanding. Yeah. So, I said earlier, about coaching and stuff. And it's funny because my youngest son's playing baseball now. And he's like, Dad, why don't you coach me? Like, well, and I said, no, bud, I told you, like, I'm not coaching anymore. He's like, why don't you want to coach anymore? And I go, and Chad has brought this term up before. I'm like, it's a thankless job. It's a great job, but it's a thankless job in the grand scheme of things, except I have such a passion for other people to be better in their life that's why I love doing it. But I'm stepping back now that I'm older and I'm more mature, and I just kind of want to live and enjoy. I want to enjoy it and not being involved with it. But I tell people all the time, I'm like, it is a thankless job. Cause he looked at me, he's like, what do you mean thankless? I was like, you're going to put everything into it. I want you to be successful. I want every one of my players or students or whatever have you to be the most successful they can, no matter what it is, what they're doing, school, life, anything.
Yeah.
And I don't want, go ahead, Chad.
No, I was just saying, to be clear, when I said thankless, I was talking about refereeing.
He was talking about reffing.
Yeah. I hate that.
Refereeing is even more thankless. Like, refereeing $1,000 a day, not 200.
Yeah.
Brutal. Right. It is brutal job. I've refereed before. I recommend it to anyone. Don't ever.
No. I reffed at a local tournament when I was a purple belt, and the guy's like, hey, I'll give you $100. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Never again.
Yeah, you make a lot of enemies, and you can't win. Basically, you're a piece of shit no matter what when you're a referee.
Yeah, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
I umpired for like 10 years. So I said something to the umpire the other day at my son's baseball game. They always say, hey, how you doing? I always tell them they do a good job, whether they don't do a good job, because I know it's awful. Like, it's you got people screaming at you and everything, and it's kind of funny. And he was like, he's a young kid. And I was like, hey, man, just keep doing what you're doing. And, you'll learn as you're going. If you like it, enjoy it, and ignore the noise, because you're always going to have it. I don't care what you do. And you guys know this.
Yeah. So Robert, I have a question. So a little bit of history on the team, Brasa and everything. Were you part of TT before, or was that already gone?
I was one of the founders of TT.
Were you one part of the team? Okay. I couldn't remember.
I was one of the, when TT started. This is how it started. When Damian, Leo Vieira, and Terere and Telly's left Alliance, right? Because Fabio Gurgel wouldn't let them compete for money because they're trying to boycott the other federation. They started training on their own. They were still Alliance, but they started training on their own. I had just won the worlds as a purple belt. I had just been promoted to brown belt. And I was like looking to move to Sao Paulo, or like train in Sao Paulo with those guys. I became friends with Damian after that. And then he invited me over, and I used to go to this Taekwondo gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there a few times to train with those guys. And then I ended up going to Fabio Gurgel's school once, because it was all Alliance. I trained once at Fabio Gurgel's school, and very good training too. I just like Leo better. I remember Leo showed up with like a Taekwondo yellow belt because he forgot his black belt. So he had a Taekwondo yellow belt that went down to his knees, and he beat the living shit out of everyone that day. Fuck, man, this guy's good. I've never had my guard, because I was a brown belt at the time. I could give Damian and Teddy a hard time passing my guard then, But he just walked through it like it wasn't there. It's like,
man,
I've never had my guard pass so fast. This is bullshit. And then I just liked their vibe, and they were cool people. So we used to train at a Taekwondo gym at first, like yellow mats. That's where I met Murilo Santana. Used to train with us for a minute there too. Some really good training those days. But then like Terere wanted to, they were calling it Master at the time. And Terere was still Master team. When they left Alliance, it became Master. But he had a gym called TT. The thing is, TT had all the good competitors. Like Master was like very few students in Rio. Like, there not many affiliates at the time. It was pretty much, we were, the core of Master Gym was TT. When we started TT, it was me, Terere and Telly's were the owners, of course. I was one of the students. When I say me, I'm like a student.
Yeah.
One of the owners. Sharpe, I brought Andre Galvão over. I brought him over. He didn't know who Terere was. I mean, he knew it was, but they didn't know each other. I remember bringing him to the gym. And then Lucas Leite was a student under Leo, but he started training with us too. And then a bunch of other people started following. And Didida started losing his marbles, you know, like, no offense. I love
No.
Like, that's what happened, you know? And,
Yeah.
And I was the first one to leave when he started like going ape shit. Like I could see the signs were all there. I'm like, this is not going to work. So I set him down. I set Didida down. I remember Andre was there too that day. I'm like, hey, man, I'm leaving, and this is why. Nothing personal. You're a great coach. Coach Didida is hands down the best coach I've ever had in terms of pure training. Not talking off the mats. In leadership, like hard training, and absolutely great, man. Like he was a phenom as a fighter and as a coach. Very charismatic, but he was a very hard guy to deal with in a lot of ways. You know, he had two sides to him, and I liked. There was one side that I liked a lot. The other one I didn't. And I left, man. I was training with Leo, and then shortly after I started training with Leo, that's when they had that incident on the airplane. It was like a month after.
Okay.
I was like, I knew something was about to happen.
Something was boiling. That's all it.
It's like that Spider-Man. He gets that spider.
Sure, a little tingle.
Hit us from behind, like a building is gonna collapse on my head or something. Like that's kind of how I felt, man. Like,
yeah.
And when Leo was there, and Lucas left right after me. So it was me, Leo, and Lucas, the three of us. And sometimes Leandro, Leo's brother, would come over. But it was when Braza started, it was Leo teaching, me and Lucas on the mats and no one else. It was I remember. It was just
man.
Wow.
And then from there it just grew because when TT fell apart, they all came over to Braza.
Right.
It tripled in size overnight, you know. But that was it. Those are good days, man. Like that was
it's just for the people that don't know, I started jiu-jitsu in 2004. So those teams that came from there, Brasa to Checkmat to AOJ to Atos, man, so many teams formed off of one team, I mean.
And you know what the problem was? I'll say this to their fans. And I love these guys. I have a good relationship with every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this to them before. It's just too many chiefs, not enough.
Yeah.
Too many bosses, but no, it's like here's a problem with you have too many people in charge.
Yeah.
No one was responsible for anything.
Yep.
Right.
100%.
We're all leaders, all three of us. Who takes responsibility? Something that there's no delegation unless it's very clearly defined.
Yeah. Yep.
Who does what.
Yep.
Right? Not only that, we experienced a moment of boom in jiu-jitsu in the United States in those years too. So it was starting to really pick up over here. People started more for seminars, just throw money in the equation. Like when I started teaching seminars, there were people that were upset because I had just gotten my black belt. Why are you teaching seminars? In English, they want me over. Why are you surprised? I don't need a visa. So I was getting invited all the time to teach seminars all over the place, and that started upsetting some of the older guys because they saw me as a threat.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to one of the bus, but some people are even boycotting this shit.
I see. Yeah. They didn't feel that there was a big pie that everyone was just getting a nice slice, and I
was skipping the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I was jumping, and I get what they were saying, but it became money hungry in a way that it wasn't. You understand?
Sure.
Yeah. All of a sudden we're fighting over. We used to not fight over this just 2 years ago. What happened? Something changed. And then the more I think about this, man, the more I think that judo did it best in terms of culture, structure, organization. That's what's missing in jiu-jitsu, man. That's why these teams fall apart all the time.
You think jiu-jitsu would ever be able to have that now? If it's branched out as far as it have, is there any way to reel it in?
Dude, the split starts with the Gracie family, man. It predates us. It starts way
right
back.
Before any of us were to be where we are now. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. It started there. Even being young into jiu-jitsu and seeing what I see and read what I read or get to talk to people, I have a hard time believing that it would ever be able to be reeled back in now. Because of
as a
money,
whole,
as a whole, right?
I was just going to say, as a whole, jiu-jitsu will survive, but I think it's going to be shapes and the division. It's too late to reconcile because you have too many kahunas who don't want to reconcile. If people have unity in terms of vision, submission only wouldn't exist, for example, right?
Sure. Right.
People have been hustling to create a universe of their own for a decade. Hustling, make it happen, and eventually that's exactly what the Gracie family did to the Japanese. They couldn't win in judo. They couldn't win. Whenever they compete against the Japanese, they got mauled. Like when Yasuichi Ono fought Hilo, he got thrown 36 times in one match.
Wow.
36 takedowns in one match. 27 in the second. It was not a close fight, man. It was a draw because there were no points. Convenient.
Yeah.
You understand? But like,
Yeah.
because they wanted to be bosses, they wanted to be alphas. But if we can't win, what do? Well,
Change something.
Create something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It might be too late, man. It might be too late. I wish that the leadership in jiu-jitsu had been better organized from the get-go. But like the boom outdid the structure. That's what it came down to.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. The boom. Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
for sure. Because Chad, you've said before, and I've always asked, like, you would never imagine that at your time that jiu-jitsu would be what it is today.
Not jiu-jitsu. I had a feeling. I remember this talk that one of my first coach was a blue belt back in the day, and we were sitting on the bleachers at East Coast, and we had a feeling like MMA was going to get big, right? Like you could see that, but to see jiu-jitsu, and I mean, I was like really new, so I didn't know a whole lot of the history or what even to look for. I didn't even know how you earned a rank yet. So
it was I remember like. The question everyone asked, like, when is MMA going to take over boxing, right? Like everyone knew because it was better than boxing.
Yeah.
I think that we knew jiu-jitsu was going to grow in the coattails of MMA, and it did. I don't think anyone expected it to be this big. Like Vegas, they have a new gym opening every week. It seems like every week there's a new gym.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know most of these people. Who the fuck is that guy? Like, purple. It's the market because he's got to sign a contract for a lease.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On like a $200,000-$300,000 lease, personal guarantee. Well, shit, man, he's got cojones, man, because he doesn't have a name. Holy shit, man. I believe in himself,
Yeah.
It's grown, like it's gotten big, huge, man. But I think in some ways I wish it had grown slower because I think we would have had more time to structure it. Like, there's too much money going around and that draws too many hawks. You got too much. You get all the wrong people like coming in. And then the right people don't get a chance because like they're overwhelmed by the money hungry ones. And money talks, man. Money talks.
Oh, absolutely. We're good. Yeah. We're going to see that. You imagine the money that's going to be generated from ADCC this year. I mean, for a jiu-jitsu event.
Yeah. I mean, for the first time, they might actually, be able to fund the event itself. But ADCC's got a bigger problem in hand.
Yeah.
They're in a building that grew from the ceiling to the foundation. They don't have a foundation. They have a ceiling.
Right.
They have prestige that comes from the fact that everyone talks, they're drawing all these eyes to the sport. I'm like, they're borrowing from the foundation. First of all, they borrowed IBJJF's rule set, almost identical.
Right.
The other thing is like all the competitors from ADCC, where do they get their experience from?
Sure.
IBJJF, they're all
they're all coming from that.
Yeah.
90% of them, if you look at their champions, almost all of them came from the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition circuit.
Absolutely.
Very few exceptions. But the thing is, like, if they maintain themselves, this boutique kind of once every 2 years kind of event, I think they'll survive with greater success than they will if they try to become a league like IBJJF.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Credibility, because between me and you, those rules are very, very flawed. Everyone knows this. If they don't have clear criteria and they don't like to hear criticism either, but it's true. Anyone like watched last ADCC, it was a huge success. It might have been from a sales ticket perspective, from a technical perspective. Like IBJJF has been raising the bar every year, so they're just building off of that momentum. It's not really theirs; it's someone else's.
Right.
But in terms of refereeing and organization, it was pretty probably the worst of my opinion. Like people are wrestling on for like a short minute. You're not gonna stop it.
Stop the match, yeah.
But they're new professional athletes wrestling. Can you imagine that in basketball? They go on
into the stands.
Right.
And
it's insane.
That's awesome that you brought that up. So I just watched a video. It was like they called it. I think Flo put it up or someone did about old lost footage or something. And it was a Tackett. William Tackett was in a match, and they were off the thing though, and the ref, like, they were off the mat completely, like on hard ground, like going at it, and the ref was like, back up, like to everybody and let them go. And I was like, wow, they're not stopping this? Like, why is this not stopping?
It's pretty unprofessional. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on the organizations that do this. It's like, look, it's not an easy sport to referee or organize. We all know this. But like, it's, if you're going to be a league the size of IBJJF, if that's what you're trying to do, I mean, look at how IBJJF holds itself in terms of professionalism. Yeah, they could pay more athletes. They could do more things. Sure, we can argue all these things. But from a logistical perspective, these guys put on 3 tournaments in a single weekend all over the world. You know, they put on an event with 7,000 people here in Las Vegas. This year's probably going to be more, 8,000-9,000 in 1 week. They have that is, I mean, compare that. ADCC has 100 competitors every 2 years. And they barely organize it with all that money. You know, so it's in terms of structure, man, they're 2 decades behind the IBJJF. Can they fix that? That's a different question. But I think that until they fix it, they're going to lose so much credibility. If I were them, I would remain the league every 2 years, just like they are. 100 athletes, easy. Got 2 years to organize one event.
Yeah, you can build the hype.
Build a hype. People get excited. It has credibility. But if you're going to start throwing tournaments every weekend, you got to have your shit together. And the truth is they don't.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. I mean, I've said that on past shows. We've talked about, ADC's getting all the spotlight because they're, Flow's pumping them, all that. But what does every black belt want to win? An IBJJF World Championship. That hasn't changed, right?
Yeah, and they will lose credibility because IBJJF is it's not going to go 100 years from now. It still exist.
Right.
Popular is because the foundation is too strong. They grew it's like the UFC. The UFC is never going anywhere. You know why? Because they grew organically from the bottom up. ADCC grew from the ceiling while it's trying to build a foundation without collapsing the ceiling.
That's an awesome way to put that. I've never even thought of that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a great, when you see businesses fail, when you start diving into it, not always, but sometimes, or a lot of times, they start at the ceiling and they didn't build their floor.
You ever watch Recrashed, the story of WeWork?
Mm-mm. I know what you're talking about. I've never watched it, but I know what you're talking about.
It's exactly what you're saying. It's people creating hype with no foundation. It's like the Tesla stock. If you got any stock, they're going to tell you that stock ain't real, man. That's because the Tesla's not that big of a company. So it's like it really is. They're much smaller than Toyota, but their stock is worth so much more than this company itself, right? It's weird like that. The world works like that in some ways, but there's always that's what bubbles are, right? You have too big of a ceiling for the foundation, and then at some point it doesn't hold. I think that these guys, they ADCC, Jean-Jacques Machado told me that, and I agreed with him. Said they made a mistake the day they left Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
From there, I'm I agreed, because that's exactly what made it special. That's where the credibility comes from. It was a tournament for kings. Now it's it's looking like every event looks more and more like a local event. It looks like a local,
Yeah, I get that.
It's like a high, it's improved technically in every way. It's whereas before it was a tournament for kings,
Nice. I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
It was a prestige thing.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I remember getting my hands on those first few, early ADCC tapes. It was awesome. It was really, very special.
It's kind of lost a lot of that. And I see what they're trying to do, right? I just think and I agree that there's a way to do what they're trying to do. I think they're going about it the wrong way because hype is a very fickle thing. It is not. Hype comes and goes.
Oh daily, hourly.
Foundation you want is the one like judo has. Judo doesn't need hype. It's around with or without hype. It's not
it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's 100 years old. It's not going anywhere. The kind of strategy, this sensationalist strategy that they're going for is very short-lived. It has a short life to it. And it's not, and it might mean, it may be in a professional form like boxing will survive, for example. Boxing is not for the masses, but it has a very, established prestige in the arena. But then it's not for everyone, it's going to be something like professional boxing. How many people fight boxing professionally? It's not,
it's not near I'm saying 80s had a huge boom of boxing, you know what I mean? But not anywhere like that. They all fight MMA now. Which is good.
But I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but I just speak my mind, and I think that these things I would like ADCC to survive and improve. I would like IBJJF to survive and improve. I love Jiu-Jitsu to grow. I want the same things these guys want. It's just that I have a different way. I look at it from a long-term perspective. I don't think these guys do. I think these guys think 4 years ahead, maybe 10 years.
Sure.
I think if you're in a position of leadership, you better be thinking 50 to 100 years ahead.
Yeah, you want to look at the I meant broad. You want to look at the broader picture, the giant picture of what you're trying to do. What is my accomplishment? The why. I mean, you really come back to the why.
That's what it comes down to. And if the why is money, so shit, you can make more money doing stocks. You can make more money somewhere else.
Doing something else.
Yeah.
You can make more money doing something else. That's why money is not a good why unless you're in business and that's all you're about. Man, it's different.
100%.
Yeah.
Money is not a good north.
Yeah, because you're not majority of those in jiu-jitsu, what the percentage has got to be super low. They're never making that kind of money. Like you said earlier, Robert, like you're not opening a gym or you're not doing this. And Chad alluded to, like, the goal is to get that world championship so you can kind of project your, career, whatever you're going to do, That's crazy. It's good stuff, man. Well, we've kept you solid more than an hour. It's been great. It's been awesome. It's such an honor for us. Why don't you do this for us, Robert? I know a lot of people know how to get at you, but shout out anything you want. I know you're working on a new book. You got the old book. Anything you want to shout out, we always put it in the show notes for the show, or you can say, it's good. Nothing. I got nothing.
Just come by. I have an open door policy, which means everyone's welcome to come and go my gym. So come by, stop by, train with us. I'm normally at the gym. It's just a 6:30 p.m. class. I've been working full time on a new book. I'm working 6-7 hours a day on it. I want to release it fairly soon. It's a sequel to Open and Closed Guard. It is tentatively called The Rise and Fall of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where I talk about all this and I give some more structure to the argument and try to further it. And this is what we should be doing. And this is why the route we're going is going to fail, because it has failed in the past repeatedly. We should learn from the past and not repeat those mistakes, But,
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm putting a lot of time and energy into this. I got a bunch of articles on GTR, which may or may not be used in the book, but it's loosely what I'm trying to say. So if you haven't checked them out, do. What else? I mean, I'm not very active on social media, but sure. At Robert Drysdalejj on Instagram. It's the only one. If you're gonna write me, DM me. And so I can't do all the others. Too much. It's a part-time job. I'm already averaging 2-3 hours a day on my phone, man. That's
yeah.
I can't wait to find an assistant that can just all right, don't just. I want to get one of those flip phones, that I can't even text.
Yeah.
People have my number. I want to be like those guys. I think Dana White does that. That's what I want.
Probably, it's not probably smart. It's actually really smart.
Yeah.
So time consuming, man. It gets you nowhere. It's a waste
for
of time,
sure.
So if you're in Vegas, stop by and
cool.
Awesome.
You ever get to Robert? I know you have an affiliate in Ohio up in Cleveland. If you ever get up that way, let me know.
Dude, I will. Actually, I was there maybe a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago.
You know what? I think you were there the day we had a seminar.
Okay.
So I don't remember who we had, but it would just worked out. It was the same. I had either my instructor in or somebody. It was the same day. But
absolutely, man, absolutely. I will. Shoot me your number. And then I'll save you on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to hit every affiliate about once a year.
Yeah.
I'll definitely know. Let you know.
Yeah, yeah. We're only about an hour-ish south of Cleveland, so
awesome.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
If you like football, you can come to the Hall of Fame Heart.
Yeah, that's our backyard.
I
would go. Honestly, I've people that have never seen a football game in my life.
Yeah.
Wow, really? No kidding.
I don't even know the rules. I know that's about it.
I don't know the rules anymore either, and I played most of my life.
I'm not against it. I get anxiety from watching sports because I'm I want to play. I get it. Maybe not anymore. I'm getting lazy. Watch soccer games. I'll be like, hey.
Yeah.
Get in there. I actually quit watching sports because of this reason. Because my wife would always be like, "You're this in, aren't you?" And I'm like, I got to stop this. Got rid of ESPN on cable and everything. My kids don't even watch sports. I couldn't do it anymore. I was too involved. It was too much. So, well, thanks, Robert, so much, man. It's such an honor to sit and talk with you, hang out with you. I appreciate it very much. And, God bless you and everything that you're doing. Keep it up. Don't change you, man. Don't change who you are and what you're doing. Appreciate the history and the stuff that you're doing, and look forward to that new book that's coming out. I think it's important that we know, as you said earlier, we got to know the roots. We got to know what's going on. At least I implore everybody out there who's listening right now, take the time to read, to think outside of what other people are trying to think for you. So
I tell people that don't read, it's put it next to the toilet, commit to 1 page per shit. Put your phone away.
Yeah. All you gotta do.
That's good. Go.
Shit, and it's a good habit. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I tell them. Start with that.
Yeah.
It's great. Like those plans are plans that work because then you could make it a habit. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, you're reading 4 or 5 pages a day. And then next thing you know, you're reading a book a week or something crazy. So it's like, yeah. And knowledge is power based off writing. In my opinion, you can learn more from reading a book and studying than you can almost anything else.
Exercising for the brain. We exercise the body, all day, that exercise the mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. So
cool.
All right, my friend, take it easy. We'll see you. All right.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sure. Later.